Welcome, welcome. So, first off, plugging, go ahead and if you know somebody who can benefit from this challenge, please tag them in your post and be like, hey, look what I'm doing. Do you want to catch up with me? And getting more people out there just to experience this type of change, this expansion is super powerful. After viewing so many people's posts, I have, like, every single post, I get chills. My heart expands because it's like serious growth that I'm seeing. People are examining themselves and hello, people are examining themselves and digging deep to spaces that they may have never ever exposed, and also they're making it public in the space of love, of vulnerability, of power, of being in your authentic self. This is beautiful. Seeing these types of things in social media and whatnot is changing the platform and the energy that we see. So as you experience your happy self, as you continue along your path, you are inspiring other people. Your light is showing, and it is illuminating the darkness of other spaces. So, which of course, especially after the shadow work that we talked about yesterday for day 5, is super powerful because we get to examine the shadow that we have within. How does our shadow affect our behavior, what we do, how we see life, etc., etc. And from that, I was able to see that there are some people who they hold space for their shadow, and then sometimes it's hard to hold space for other people's shadow, right? Or they hold space, but they do it from afar. Or they run away from other people's shadow and whatnot. There are other people too who are examining their shadow, and they're sitting there and they're holding it in love, and they're saying, wow, you are here for me as well as I am here for you, because the shadow is part of yourself, and we cannot deny any part of ourself if we want to be whole, if we want to be completely in this space of authenticity. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, for participating, for sharing. Again, if you are in this challenge, go ahead and use the hashtags of 90-Day Happiness Challenge. Also tag me. I'm noticing the Facebook algorithms have a harder time finding the 90-Day Happiness Challenge tag. I don't know why. But go ahead and use and tag me, Matthew Embry McLean, the Shamanic Happiness Coach. Just tagging my page or just tagging me in general is going to work as well. But I am doing my research and I'm getting it out there. I have a whole list of people that are involved, and it's just beautiful. It's going to be quite interesting. So far, the odds, it's not the Hunger Games, but may the odds be in your favor because there's so many people participating, so I love it. And they're probably not all within the groups that you're seeing, so they're outside. So go ahead and tag people that are in different states that are, so maybe some of you don't even know, but you notice that maybe you see some of their posts because of Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and you notice they're going through a hard time, and just be like, hey, I'm doing this and it's expanding me, so why don't you go ahead and start in and catch up, because we have not, like, there's still so much more to come that it's easy still to catch up. At every 30 day, we're kind of going to do a bit of a reset. Not completely. It's only going to be reset for prizes and stuff like that. But for the 30-day portions, at that point, if you want to have somebody else join in, it's really great. They can just do 1 through 30 all in one go. That's going to be quite an experience and quite a post for whoever it is. So, there you go. Anyway, moving on to day 6. So we're here and we are continuing shadow work. We examined the inner shadow work. Now we are examining the outer shadow work. What shadows are in society? What shadows are in the spaces that are around us? And I made a small list after doing a little bit more research on, like, well, okay, where is the shadow in life and how does it show up? And just like a bullet point quick thing is our shadows are going to be, like, you can see shadow in the unemployment process. You can see shadows in how leadership takes place in workplaces. You can see shadows in the misuse of resources. You can see shadows in how we build things, the technology and the production of things. are we producing things for consumers that are actually good for us? Or are they there for distractions and all these other things? Are they there to not really serve the planet in their greatest and highest good? Also, social pressures even. Are you being guided to join a group that is only there to validate your pain? Is it only there to make your pain more real? Is it only there to justify negative behaviors? Are you joining in a space where like-minded individuals of hurt are coming together? A lot of times when that happens, we can see that even take place, the shadow projections of those spaces, we can see them in the form of laws, mandates. We can see them in the form of, how else? Just discrimination in general. We can see that happen because perhaps people who are feeling marginalized, not heard, or they don't understand certain ways of being are hurt by the other ways of being. So maybe they're hurt by minority cultures, or they're thinking that whatever they're doing is being devalued. They have a certain way of existing in this world that doesn't benefit all the greatest and highest good. And so we can understand that the outcomes from those groups have shadow as well. There's shadow also within religion. We're not perfect, right? There is shadow everywhere. And how does it manifest? And also, how is it healing? That's a big thing. How are these structures owning their shadows and owning the products that they've put into this world and changing that around? What else? I put down the shadow of the military. So, like, what wars are we constantly engaging in? What conflicts? How are we utilizing the military? Is it actually for good, or are we suppressing other people as a byproduct, right? Are we creating chaos in this world? And this is from every country can ask the same question. I said consumption. So are we consuming products that are very unhealthy for the world in general, such as like pollution and whatnot, even from energy sources? We can even look at how society's shadows and how society's structures have influenced, cast their shadow, on the environment. That's a big one. What is happening to the planet all over the world? And a lot of that has to do with the product of the shadows of the systems in which we are trying to support the world, support the environment and whatnot. Hi, Dandos. And the biggest thing that I saw, or one of the really cool things that I was able to see, is that a lot of times the shadow, it supports greed, it supports gluttony, it supports vanity. And so in any portion, at any time in which those things are showing up, that's part of shadow. So in that space, hi buddies. In that space, just in the observation mode, how do we view all of these reactions in the world? A lot of times we feel hurt by it. We feel like it's out of alignment with who we truly want, how we truly want to live, how we want to represent the world, how we want to represent X, Y, and Z, and participate in those spaces too. And so the assignment is to examine how we're feeding into the shadow of societal constructs. How are we feeding into this? How are we supporting these societal constructs? And how can we unplug from those things? How can we still love them? Understanding that they're here for us to learn. So if perhaps, what's an example? A simple example that I can come up with is perhaps there's a corporation that has a certain leadership style, and that corporation has a lot of turnover. And we understand that a lot of times the leadership style is deemed from the top down, and it's produced in the space of, do they feel money scarce, right? A lot of times they feel money scarce or power hungry or whatever it would be. Maybe they're just scared of being sued. I don't know. Those are all shadow projections. But when you see the companies care more about these, when you see them acting from the place of scarcity, lack, and fear, and they implement environments that produce bad leaders, that produce areas where they're okay buying products that aren't good for the environment, right? They support cheap things that are meant to be replaced within a few weeks or a few years, just simple things like that, like obsolescence and whatnot. These are all shadow things that come into corporations. So when we see the leadership aspect of it, and we see a lot of turnover there, we go, okay, what's going on, right? And we go, wow, I just wish that maybe they could have better leaders. And how do we support that kind of a thing? We support it in the space of acknowledging that there is maybe bad leadership going on. We don't condemn, but we say, hey, this is like a troubling situation, and I would love to see it resolved because I enjoy the environment or I enjoy going there. There's an example, I'm not going to name any names right now, but one of my examples is every time I go to a certain hardware store, I notice that like the interior plant section or the exterior plant section is really not very well maintained. It's not well kept. And so I understand the corporates, how do I say, how they view their profit margins in certain areas. And if they don't make a lot of money, they probably can't afford a lot of payroll to those spaces. That says a lot about the shadow of how that company is operating because they just don't care about these things. In which case they're caring more about maybe their shareholders and instead of providing the customer with a valuable service. And studies show that when you care about the customers more, then you actually become way more profitable. When you care about your employees more, you become way more profitable. Specifically, like raising your minimum wage, treating your employees extremely well. The employees stop wanting to jump ship, so you lose a whole bunch of the overhead cost of just maintaining your workforce, and it becomes very stable. And then those people enjoy their job, and they enjoy that, and then your customer base enjoys that too. So you know what companies we're talking about. The companies that you enjoy to walk in because people come up to you and they're very happy, and then there's those companies that you walk into and people are like, meh, whatever. And so we can see how the shadow kind of trickles through, and how can we support, how can we love them because of their flaws? How can we look at that and go, wow, that is a really good example of how to change. That's a really good example of how to change. So the wisdom, cool, I drew another card, of course, and it comes from the Earth Warrior Oracle deck. Can you see this? There we go. Earth Warriors. I know it's backwards, but you can read backwards too. You're smart. So the card that I drew was Ulaka Vahini. This goddess. Super awesome. I'll leave that there for another second because you can see this awesome owl kind of incorporated within her own garb. And then she's got this huge, amazing higher self expansion going on in this space. She's got a little bit of headdress going on, signifying her power with a third eye. And this owl is just looking right through you. And it's just sitting there going, I see how you're showing up. And this card represents the tracking of karma. And she comes in to say, do not worry about how society is interacting. I got you. We're all going to join together and we're going to even these things out in the space of when you see it, do not become derailed. Do not become disenfranchised. Stay with your power. Stay with your happiness. Work your walk. Okay, however you want to show up in this world, in the most expanded space, in the most expanded space, do that. Go about and shine your light and love, because as you do that, more people will continue to join in on that space, and that healing, that positive vibe, really does affect those spaces. It may seem sometimes frustrating when the loud, angry person gets all the attention or whatever it would be. And that's just because they're really shining their shadow and it's super loud. And so in this space of witnessing them and just going, wow, I see you're hurt and I see you're frustrated. And we can also say, I don't support this. It's not in alignment with me. It doesn't resonate with me, et cetera, et cetera. So those are positive ways of doing that and saying, hey, have you thought about doing it this way? Right? And of course, when we say thought about doing it this way, we're not projecting our own shadows. We are getting into that space of identifying that everybody is valuable. So if we want to contribute to a space and helping identify shadow, let us do it in the most compassionate way possible. If our comments or our advice has anything to do with suppression or judgment, that is from shadow. If it has to do with shame, that is from shadow. So we don't want to do those things. We want to take the higher road. So again, Miss Ulaka Vahini right here is coming in to assure you that karma is going to be taken care of. And as we band together and we raise the vibration, that vibration has rippling effects. And as we allow it to really settle and we hold space for the healing of all shadow everywhere, we don't have to completely keep that in within our consciousness, of course, because that's a lot of responsibility. We can just continue to go about our daily lives, continue to be awesome, continue to help people smile, help people grieve, help people enjoy life, help people enjoy the moment, help people find what is truly valuable for them. Then all of us begin to really come into alignment with balance and harmony. And these constructs of shadow begin to fall down. The scaffolding that is holding them up begins to disintegrate, and eventually they will come down. And as they do that, how are we going to allow those people, the corporations or whatever, who are seeing the deconstruction of the shadow projection, and they oscillate to that, they resonate with that, how are we going to allow them into the space of healing rather than rejecting them? Because rejection, again, creates more radicalism, right? People who are marginalized, who feel unrepresented, and etc., will band together. And especially if they're all hurt, then they will probably project hurtness. And so when their construct or their group breaks down, how do we allow them into another group, right? And maybe you know of a friend or another business owner or something of that nature who is going through a large shadow issue within society. Maybe they're having trouble making ends meet. Maybe their social group is falling apart and they are really mad about that. They don't feel like they're connected to anybody. They feel very lonely. How do we say, hey, I witness your pain and I invite you to come into this other space in which you do have a family. You do have people who care about you, right? And I want to hold space just for your healing and whatever that looks like. A lot of times validating the feelings and then coming back in with logic works way better than just trying to immediately confront somebody with logic, right? When we're very scared and we're very upset, we're using the right brain and we're using the imaginative brain, and it's running wild with stories or whatever it would be, because it's naturally going to create these illogical stories, such as like political fears and how people become polarized in those spaces. There's a lot of illogical stories that are told in that space. And when we say, hey, I see that, and we validate that experience, and then later on we go, hey, but it could be a little bit different. I don't really think that this is going to happen, or maybe we could look at it in a different way. In those spaces, we open up conversation and we engage both parts of our brain. We go from this chaos of crazy imagination and stories, and we go from maybe there's people who are just too rigid within their logic, and when we start to meld them together, right? Compassion, bringing it back in. So this is just 24/7 meditation of compassion, right? I'm just going to act in the compassionate way. I'm going to understand how, when I live in a compassionate way, it affects society. So that is our assignment. Go ahead and however you notice the shadow of society coming about, and generally it's something that we dislike about society, but notice if how we respond to it is beneficial or not, and how can we remove any shame, any judgment, and whatnot, and just listen and then hear that, and then respond and say, hey, I actually want you in my circle because I do value you and I understand where you're coming from. Your story of why this is important to you is very valuable, and let me also tell you my story and how we can come together. So share your story of societal shadow using the hashtags again, 90-Day Happiness Challenge, 90-Day Happiness Challenge, And then also tag me, Matthew Embry McLean, Shamanic Happiness Coach. And we will see what happens. We will see what happens and who posts and how this goes. The more expansion, again, every time I look, I'm just getting so many chills and love it. For continued support, if you are having a hard time in that space and you would like some support, you're saying, how can I be compassionate? How can I heal? All of those things. I am here for you every single Wednesday. We do an online Zoom meditation, compassionate mindful meditation online through Good Elephant. And then also the compassionate mindful meditation in person. It is the Foundations of Meditation, and then it's limited because of COVID compliance. So we always have to make sure that we're just respecting everybody. So the group sizes are limited. Please sign up as soon as you think you want to do something of that nature, or join us if you feel called. If you've got those butterflies in your belly, do that. Sign up early. Currently, the November 20th one still has some available spots, so you're lucky. I was very happy I checked it before I went on. So there's only a couple of spots left. If you feel like that's supposed to be you, go on to Good Elephant. The link is in the description as well. What else? I think that's it, actually. I've said everything I need to for day 6. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. Again, if we need to do a clarity call or anything of that nature, I am here. You can go on my website, my Facebook page, and find my contact information. Thank you very much. With light and love. Namaste, everybody. Goodbye. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow.